Two-topic show here at Dolphins Today. It will start with Mike McDaniel. Is he losing the Dolphins locker room? Plus, the Dolphins did catch a break for Week 15. Yes, I know it is Week 14, but, well, assuming the Dolphins can beat the Jets at home this Sunday, they have a big-time matchup next week against the Texans, and we'll have to break down some news on their side of things. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. But make sure you are following me over on Twitter. Handle is Nic_Rohloff. Daily Dolphins coverage, Dolphins highlights when the Dolphins play every week. We are just inching closer to 1,400 followers. Help your boy out. Give me a follow, and you'll be rewarded with the latest Dolphins news and rumors. All right, let's get into the first segment and topic of today's episode. Is Mike McDaniel losing the locker room? Now, I do want to give you a little warning. This quote might not be the most reliable, but I did stumble across this little blurb on the X app today, and I did want to share it with the Dolphins fans at home because allegedly an anonymous player said this on Mike McDaniel after the loss to Green Bay on Thanksgiving in the cold. It starts with Coach. He was shivering the entire game. In the locker room, he was standing next to the heater. This is supposed to be our leader. Now, I do want to say, like I mentioned just a second ago, it might not be the most credible. It came from NFL notifications. But the reason why I wanted to bring this quote up is because I saw our good friend Doug, who also does a great job on YouTube covering the Dolphins, mentioned that he doesn't know if it's completely true, but he has also heard some things coming out of the locker room that you probably don't want to hear. So I think it's a good time to have a conversation on if Mike McDaniel is the leader and the right man for the job to lead the Dolphins into battle every single week, because we have seen over the past 3 seasons that Mike McDaniel is excellent. Maybe the greatest coach of all time at beating bad football teams. Simply doesn't lose the bad football teams when he has Tua and a fully healthy roster. But when you match him up against good ball clubs, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, Green Bay, like these guys that are sustained success, cold weather teams, physical football teams, the Dolphins always come up short. And even if no one actually said that quote, and it's a fake quote, maybe I get got, I think it's still worth talking about because I think many players might actually be thinking that. Because if the fans are thinking it, if I'm thinking it, other content creators are thinking it, then you'd probably have to assume that 1 or 2 players of 53 on the active roster are also thinking the same thing. And especially when you have a first-year Miami Dolphins player, Jordan Brooks, who has been one of the rare good signings from Chris Greer from this past offseason, tell the media and tell everyone in the NFL world that we were soft on that Thanksgiving game against the Green Bay Packers. Well, if the players say you're playing soft, you have to at least point a little bit of the blame to your head coach, Mike McDaniel. Is he good at scheming up an offensive game plan? Probably. But you also need someone to inspire confidence. And all the players in the world on Miami were talking this year about how they wanted to be a more physical football team than they were last year because they felt that what was lacking the most and why they crumbled down the stretch. Well, in their first opportunity as a fully healthy team this season, playing a good team on the road in a cold weather environment, they got absolutely abused at the point of attack. They were not even close to the most physical team on the football field. They missed 20 tackles that helped the Packers gain another 160 yards on offense. And sure, you can blame the offense for getting off to a cold start. You can also blame the defense for not being able to get a stop and tackling in the cold weather environment. All right, let me know. What say you? Do you think Mike McDaniel has lost the locker room? Type Y for yes or type N for no. At this point in the season, I don't think he's lost the locker room. I do think there is a pathway to where he could lose the locker room, though, and I'll explain that here in just a second. And I think it is all dependent on the 5 games remaining for the Miami Dolphins. This is a very important 5-game stretch for not only Chris Greer, the GM, for Mike McDaniel, for Tua Tagovailoa. It is going to be tough to rattle off 5 straight wins and end the year 10-7. It is. I think it's certainly possible for Miami to do so. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do go 5-0. I think it's more likely they go 4-1. They do have an easy schedule, though. They play the Jets twice. bad football team. They play the Browns, bad football team. They play the 49ers this season, bad football team. The only team that has a winning record is worth anything is the Houston Texans in Houston in Week 15. But guess what? They have played not good football this year. CJ Stroud has taken a massive regression in his sophomore season, and they are very beatable, even though that game is in Houston. And here's my thing. You look at the next 3 games of Jets, Texans, 49ers. I think you actually win those 3 games. I think you win the 2 at home. I think you go into Houston and win because it's a dome environment, and I'm not really scared of how the Texans are playing right now. And let me tell you this, folks. If the Dolphins win the next 3, are 8-7 going into the final 2 games of the year that both happen to be on the road in a cold environment, Cleveland and New York, and you crumble against one of those two teams that you would be favored to win, you just can't bring back Mike McDaniel. And I'm serious about that. Because, yes, the Dolphins may finish with a winning record, and Mike McDaniel would have 3 straight seasons of a winning record in Miami, something that doesn't get done that often. But you could just tell that with him at the helm and leading this team, they will never win a big game in December and January when they have to play on the road in a cold environment. I do not care if they finish the year 9-8 and they one loss the rest of the way is against New York or Cleveland late. You have to get rid of them because you know that you're always going to be stuck in mediocrity with Mike McDaniel at the helm. All right, we're going to shift into some other news in just a second, but we are sponsored by Game Time, the #1 way to get your tickets. And I use Game Time every single time I purchase my tickets, whether it's going to a sporting event, concert, comedy show, it does not matter. And with a new feature like Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, what else could you ask for? Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's some other great features that they have. All-in pricing. Making sure that feature is toggled shows you the total price of your ticket up front, so you don't have to get blindsided by fees at checkout. You also get a panoramic view of the seat in the app before you buy. What else could you want? No fugazi, no bull crap at checkout. You get to see where you're sitting at. There is no better way to get your tickets than Game Time. And make sure you download the app, create an account, and use our code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's Game Time. Link is in the description and comments of today's video. All right, let's move over to the Dolphins catching a break for their Week 15 game against the Houston Texans. And why are we looking ahead? Well, I do think it's pretty significant news. And, well, if you're watching this on Tuesday afternoon, it is the most important news in the NFL of the day. Because Azeez Al-Shaair, the talented linebacker of the Texans, obliterated Trevor Lawrence on Sunday and is getting suspended 3 games. That came out this morning. Now, he is going to appeal that suspension. But with them having a bye this week, it is very likely that that appeal will be heard before the Dolphins game in 2 weeks. So we'll probably have a resolution. And maybe the appeal goes wayside and he's suspended 3 games. Maybe he gets knocked down to 2 games or 1 game. But I do expect Shaair to miss this game against the Miami Dolphins. And, well, that's because it's their next game. Like, even if it gets knocked down to a 1-game suspension, because of the bye, he would probably miss Week 15 against Miami, which is really good news for the Dolphins. Obviously, you don't want Trevor Lawrence to be the reason why he's not playing against you, but Shaair's been so good and a staple in that Houston Texans defense that has been in the top half of the football this year. He gets after the quarterback. He's got sideline-to-sideline speed. He gets after you in the run game as well. Him not being in the middle of that defense will allow Miami to attack the middle of the field more. Jonnu Smith will probably have a big game, but also possibly get the running game back on track, which has really struggled over the last 3 weeks and 4 weeks, averaging less than 70 yards per game. It's been absolutely abysmal. Like, he is one of the darlings of Pro Football Focus. And we always say they're not the gospel, they aren't the final word, but when he's the 10th ranked linebacker in all football, 5th against the run, top 15 in pure tackling, and a top 20 coverage linebacker, yeah, I would label that as a break for the Miami Dolphins, that you don't have to worry about him potentially disrupting your offensive game plan by getting into the backfield during the run plays or covering over the middle of the field. So you might ask yourself, well, who is going to replace Shaair if he actually is out against the Dolphins? Well, it's going to likely be Christian Harris, who you might remember the name, former Alabama linebacker. He actually has not played a single game this season. I was talking with our Texans Today host, Jeremy Chugg, shout out to him, and he mentioned that Harris has been dealing with a calf injury the whole year, has not played, but is likely to make his debut in the 2024 season against the Dolphins out of the bye week. And you saw the stats on the screen just a second ago. Harris is a decent player, 101 tackles last season. He came on late and was part of the reason why the Texans defense was so successful late in the year, which is why they were able to win a playoff game in the first place. He is a dangerous linebacker. Now, is he as good as Shaair? Probably not. And even though he is good, first game back of the season, probably going to be on a pitch count, so it's not like you're going to see him out there for 60-plus plays or anything like that, but it is worth noting here and our perspective. Now, I did want to say this before we get out of here. I am not scared of Houston. I just am not. When you talk about the schedule for the Miami Dolphins over the next 5 games, that it's really not that concerning. We've talked a lot about the Texans, but you do have to take care of business this Sunday against the Jets at home. So let me know who you got in this one. Type MIA for the Dolphins, type NYJ for the Jets. It's been a disaster in New York this season. Hopefully it continues to be a disaster with the Dolphins getting a win. And taking care of business is the most important thing here. Out of the 5 games Miami has left, right now, 4 of them come against bad football teams. San Francisco 5-7, New York 3-9, Cleveland 3-9. The only team that you play left on the schedule that's got a winning record is the Texans. So if you're just able to take care of business and win the games that you're supposed to, well, all you need to do is win the one game that you are going to be underdogs in against Houston, and you're 5-0 and have a shot at the playoffs. Taking care of business, name of the game. But also make sure you are subscribed, because we're dropping videos every single day. We'll have videos tomorrow, the day after, and then we'll be live on Sunday for Jets Dolphins Week 14. So hit that sub button and join us live.